Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. One second, chat, while I check on something real quick. There we go. How's everybody doing today? Just give me 1 second here. And there we go. Good night for you. Oh, well, I hope you get some good sleep. Sleep well. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Catching a morning streak after. Good morning, Keeper of Fate. Thank you so much for the first redeem. Good morning, Ocean. Thank you for second. Good morning, Shiny. Thank you for third. And hi, Gino. Hello, Anya. How you doing? Hi, Vanya. Always good to see you. I do think it's funny we have an Anya and a Vanya. Hello, Lily Dragon. Good morning. Good morning, Molly May. I apologize. I'm on a Val grind, but I can't miss this. Totally fine, totally fine. Don't you worry about a single thing. Good morning, Euro Frosty. Good morning, Carmia. Oh, no, Anya. I always start at 3:30. Maybe you just show up a little bit late. Oh, you enjoy your work. Drinking coffee. What kind of coffee are you drinking today, Black Widow? And you're doing Helldivers. Fair enough. I'm late all the time, but I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely wonderful today. For the most part. Could not find my glasses this morning. Oh, I got you. Couldn't find my glasses this morning, so I had to put on contacts right before the stream began. Which that was a bit frustrating, but you know, we're doing good. I feel like I might still. You ate my glasses. Don't eat my glasses. I already broke them, partially. I accidentally sat on them the other day, and they're completely out of whack now. And so I'm trying to actually order some new glasses. But I'm still trying to find wherever I put my prescription, which, you know, there's a whole nother layer of frustration. Yeah, I have contacts. Good morning, Keeper. And good morning, Robin Babette. I like your name. Have I ever told you that? I like that it goes Babette. And I think it's so funny that me and Keeper were trying to figure out what you were and called you. Well, I didn't call you a bat when you have the word bat in it. Alright, go to sleep. Enjoy your sleep. Ocean, why did you stay up until 5:41 a.m.? Why'd you stay up so late? You shouldn't be staying up so late. You need to be sleeping. Or did you just wake up? Oi, oi, oi. Yes, Vanya. Thank you. Thank you for the lurks. You're right, I shouldn't bully Ocean. They're gonna have a rough week. Okay, Goose. I have not had a chance to listen to your cover yet, Goose, but I will do that today. So, this morning, also, are we in the ASMR category? We should be. Good, okay. This morning, I've been loving the hell out of Minecraft for some reason. I know. Maybe I just get on that 2-week kick of, wanting to play Minecraft. Oh, Goose, get some sleep. I've been liking this, though. Minecraft server win. If we ever hit 300, paid subs, I'll do it. Which isn't an insane number, honestly. Let me take a look at how many paid subs we have right now. Mm-hmm. We'll make it 200. We'll make it 200. If we ever hit 200 paid subs, then we'll do it. Find you an oil prince? Exactly. I want you to take your meds always, Ocean. I care about you. Thank you for the luck, Robin. And good morning, Neo Nyan Yan. How you doing? I hope you're doing very well. For me, it's 3:45 a.m. Maybe because your schedule is set up to be like that, Goose. If you set up your schedule like that, of course you're gonna have the weird sleep schedule. Alright. You know what time it is? That's fair. That's fair. He should judge you for watching me. I judge you for watching me, really? Alright, are you ready for some Minecraft? Good morning, Cat. Lovely to see you. Vanya, I don't judge you. You know I don't. Okay. I may need to rearrange my schedule, by the way, chat, just a heads up. For some of the afternoon streams, we may be getting rid of the Just Chatting stream and moving the forest that day. And instead, on Friday afternoon, I may need to go, fill out some legal paperwork. I know, so very relaxing, isn't it? The idea of me doing legal paperwork. Good morning, Nyan. I hope you enjoy your time here. Right. I'll eat the papers. Please don't. They're important. Or they won't be. Okay. We're gonna move this here. Perfect. And now, lastly. Oh, I haven't had this one in a long time. Yeah, there was too much on this screen. My son can stay on the Just Chatting page. I'll add the sun back once I rebuild my overlays because I need to build a new overlay. But for now, this will be a little bit cleaner. But, ooh, thank you so much for the redeem. That's fair. But why are you getting nauseous at night? That's interesting. That's an idea, Vanya. I might do that. A little bit louder. There we go. No, I understand you. Well, good. Is the game loud enough for you all? Are you able to hear fine? Is it too loud? Perfect. Oh, nice. I hope she enjoys the poem. It should. This whole time we're kind of waiting for a guest. Perfect. Thank you, Goose. We just need to make sure we're not seen, is all. I may need to gather more materials before we get caught. Alright. Now I can hear it. That is anxiety inducing, isn't it? No, you need to get some sleep, Psycho. Get yourself some sleep. Let's go collect some materials. I'm half tempted just to run all the way back home. We got this, chat. Anya, you're very, very kind, sweet, lovely, incredible, and I do really, really, really appreciate you. There we go. Alright. Hopefully we can get this tree to go. Entire goal to get over there was to get bone. But sorry, let's continue. Anya, you're lovely, sweet, incredible, kind, funny, and so just very, very enjoyable to have in chat. I do really, really appreciate you. And I think you're just wonderful. You're going to do great things as long as you put the time and effort into them. And I know that whatever you put your mind to, you will succeed. Because you're just so amazing. I really do appreciate you. I'm so happy that you're part of the stream. I'm part of this community. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for the redeem. Okay. I think we need to try to make some farm space. Oh no. I've realized something, chat. Okay. Luckily, I have this boat. Nighttime water finished. What does that mean? Oh, did you drink water? There we go. I had no way of making a hoe, so I couldn't make a farm. But now we do. Oh. That makes sense. Hopefully, it doesn't make you need to wake up in the middle of the night, you know? Hmm. Morning, Gibbets. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing very lovely. Bucking. Dear God, there's more. Right. It is early. Enjoy your work, Lily. Always lovely to see you. I appreciate you coming by. Mwah. You too. Alright, here's the plan. I'm going to take all of this material and use it for the bridge. Maybe we'll make a nicer bridge later. This should at least get us across. And we keep zoning out. That's no good. Careful. I made my sister chocolate chip pancakes. Delicious. Oh, that is very kind. You're doing very well. Okay. Good morning, Lumi. How are you doing today? Can we get a shout out for the lovely Yumi? Oh, I also work in IT. This is not my full-time job. I only do this for about 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. So I only stream for about 4 hours a day. But how you doing, Lumi? How's streams been? Mm-hmm. Working on merch. Oh, we'll have fun. I need to work on planning out some merch as well. There's always a method to the calm chaos when you build, of course. I'm always happy to be a calm chaos. Oh, I have an idea. I'm gonna need to make a slab. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Thank you for the stretch. A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Why is this thing broken? I have to figure out how to fix it. Kind of IT. The goddamn Microsoft, please, please, please stop changing things. Because every time you do, I get 100 some calls trying to figure out how to fix it again. Or the please think about users when you're doing changes to our systems, because every time you do it, I'm the one who has to figure out what went wrong and fix it again. If I kill you, will all your friends try to kill me? Interesting. There we go. No worries. I just removed him from the equation. I feel a little bad. Only a little. He did deserve it. You're right. He was in my way. How dare he exist up here? Ania, thank you for the pen. Greatly appreciate it. Really, really do appreciate it. Oh, we're getting. There's another one. spawned just outside. We're so close, chat. But how you doing? How's everybody's morning been so far? Any plans for the day? Or just the normal weekday plans? This will be so nice when this is finished. Getting my eyes tested. Nice. Thank you, Anya. You gotta work out today. Ooh. I should also be working out today. Maybe I'll work out. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're catching up on things. Ooh, shiny shamrock. My lovely devoted. Are you having fun, Anya? Those are very pretty. Did I tell you all that I'm trying to figure out what to call all of you? And one of the options was devoted. Because we will be starting, I will become a villain. And I think that devoted is a lovely term for the people who associate with the villain they love. What do you think, chat? I still like Lucky Fox. Sorry, I can't use that one. Alright. Almost there. I'll be fine. As long as it's not skeletons. We'll be fine. It has not grown yet, unfortunately. Darlings. Darlings could work. The devious darlings. Because it still has to have a villain theme, you know. My double D's. Why am I making this part so big? Who knows? Oh, let me know if it's any good. I've been meaning to watch it. Bet. I'll call you a devious darling. Alright. I feel so bad having to kill them every time. Okay, if the tree won't grow because it still hasn't grown, and I feel like enough time has passed, then maybe we need sunlight, and in which case, we can get some sand, and I can make some glass, and we can make a window to the surface. No, shoot, what am I doing? I'm not allowed outside. Mm-hmm. True enough, true enough. I left my sticks downstairs. Time to go get my sticks. You. Fair enough, Anya. Anya, you're such a good, perfect, sweet foxy. Such a perfect, good, sweet foxy. Thank you so much for that redeem. You're welcome, you're welcome. Thank you for the bit, and good morning, Calypsy. Good morning, Calypsy. How are you doing today? Always lovely to see you. Oh, did you know you're this week's #1 clipper? Good night, Crucified. Crucified, crucified, crucified like my Savior. Really? That's always fun. No, shoot. Back down we go. Let me not drown myself here, chat. Oh, that is very interesting, Goose. I got you. I'll do my best to ensure that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. New chapter posted. Yay. Always appreciated. Thank you so much for those bits. I do really, really appreciate them. Am I how far away from the surface? That's going to be a little frustrating, isn't it? I'll definitely check it out. I've gotten asked to do song covers from it, so, I might as well watch it. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not happening yet, unfortunately. The time that I was supposed to go to a singing lesson, the teacher didn't show up, so hopefully they'll show up at the next one I do. No, it happens. Why, what's the face for? Yeah, because I feel like, I'm a decent singer, but I definitely need some training. Okay, let's go get some glass. No, actually, let's do this first. It's nothing too special. Alright. Really? Apparently, one of my issues is that I'm very, very tall. So, diaphragm singing is a bit more difficult, just due to size. And so, when anybody's ever tried to teach me how to do it properly, they haven't really been able to. I haven't really been able to learn yet. So I sing a lot from my throat. Mm-hmm. Really? And how would you do that? Did I go to uni? I did. Well, not uni. I guess it was uni. The terminology in the States is a little bit different. University and college are pretty much the same thing here. Neeks. Hi, Neeks. I've missed you. How are you doing? I hope everything's been going well for you. Oh, lucky you. I've not been a menace. I'm never a menace. I don't know what you're talking about, chat. That's my default state. You know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. Wait, why'd the tree die? Oh, water. Right. So much lies. So mean to me. Chat hates me. I know it. I know it. I knew it. Hmm. 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 Notepad. Note taken. Thank you. Singing tip. Perfect. Neeks. Everybody hates me. Do you like Attack on Titan? I think it was a good show. Yeah. Do you enjoy it? I don't think I've ever seen the full thing, but it was good what I saw of it. Why is there a random lake here? Oh, brother. Mm. Okay. This is probably not the best. Oh, there's more water. Enjoy your sleep. I'll make sure to be there, okay? Understood, understood. Okay. Let's see. How are we gonna do this? I have a theory, but it might not work out. Hopefully I don't accidentally drown myself. Maybe we'll see what happens, though. Thank you for the stretch, Kendra. Yeah, that's true. It's true. That's what it is today. How am I doing? I'm doing very well. How are you doing? Wait, what's going on here? There we go. Mm. Well, hopefully I can be good background noise for you. Hmm. Oh, Anya. That's adorable. I'm glad you're looking forward to it. I hope I can impress. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for the knowledge, Goose. It's going to be very helpful for me. There we go. I should be the service, right? Alright, chat. Now's the idea. I don't know if this is going to be enough light, but hopefully this will work. I have a double stun for a serotonin high energy streamer for the dopamine. Oh. Well, I'm very glad I was able to activate that. Okay, that's going to be a straight shaft all the way to the surface. Hopefully that'll give enough sunlight to make the tree grow, but we'll have to find out. How dirty. You know, I've never found ancient debris before. It means I've never made netherite armor. I think it'd be very cool. Oh, thank you, Anya. I do appreciate it. 1 second, chat. Well, I'm glad I can give you the load you're looking for. Calypsy, Calypsy, Calypsy. Is your name based off of Calypso, the goddess of the sea? You are very, very lovely. So kind and so enjoyable to have here. I do truly, truly appreciate you. I hope you know I value you very, very much. You bring a lovely energy to the space and to wherever you go. And just like the goddess, I'm sure you're quite stirring, powerful, strong. With enough effort, striving, I know you'd be able to achieve anything. You're going to do incredible. And right now, you're doing amazing. Thank you so much for being a member of this community. Thank you even more for this redeem. Ben, I would love to do that, Goose. I'd really, really appreciate that. Is there anything particular you would like praise for, though, Calypsy? Anything going on right now that you feel a little bit more insecure about? Just know that you're doing great, okay? You're doing wonderful. And I do love the art for your character. 'Cause I think I've definitely seen you over on Twitter. Oh, I understand, sweetie. I understand. I have an idea. Hear me out. Don't worry, I'll protect you, buddy. Okay, now where were we? You live with me now. Come. Come. I would appreciate that. Gentle warm-ups might be exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for. Wait, can I push you into the next world? What happens if I push you through the portal? Do you die? Do you become a normal ping? Keep going, buddy. You got this. Morning, Voiden. How you doing? Would you buy iron? Would you buy gold nuggets from me? No. Oh, you'll just take them. Come on. Oh, I tried. Give me a kiss. You're right. I should give me a kiss. Or just. No, let me kiss you. Mwah. He's been kissed, chat. Come on, you're almost there. You got this. I believe in you. I'll get you, Echo. Come on. Come on. You can do it. I believe in you. Go through the portal. Go through the portal. You know you want to. Oh, nice. Oh. Well, that's disappointing. Why did you change? Wait, once he stepped off the dirt, he transformed. What if I were to put netherrack there? Would he survive? Question. questions, questions, questions. That would make sense. Actually. Interesting. Things to think about later, chat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good morning. Thank you so much for the follow. I hope you're doing lovely today. Alright, chat. The other thing that we're going to be trying to do today is make it to that fortress over there. Hopefully we can make it. A blaze. Okay, maybe we won't go. Well. One thing's for certain, the blazes don't seem to like me very much. How unfortunate. That's fair. Almost there. Man, talking about singing so much makes me want to sing, but it's definitely not the right time for it. I can't really sing right now because I have to keep my voice low and whispery. You know. Oh, shoot. Well, that happened. Okay. It is very, very ironic. not learned my lesson. I have not learned my lesson. You're right, you're right. Oh, it probably smells awful. Not even good bacon like rotten bacon. Come on up, buddies. You can do it. I believe in you. Where are you? There we go. Baconby, exactly. Oh, where did... I looked away for 1 second. I don't know how he got up here. I looked away to look at chat for 1 second. I have no clue how he got up here. This is why you don't look away, chat. This is why you don't look away. No, you're fine. You're fine. Ah, happens. Probably drop down. You're right. How did you spell it? Baconby. There you go. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Baconby. Oh, I'm gonna immediately sink in the snow and die. Well, hopefully we can get out of the snow and not die here. You should. Go get some sleep. Go rest. Sleep well. Exactly. That's all it takes. Oh, thank you for the giant emote, Calypsy. I really appreciate it. Oh, there's no way we're getting out of here easy. You're right. This is gonna be a struggle. True. All words are made up. Okay, I think if I can get to the ice river... Oh, not this. Again. Should be a little easier. Plural, as in pig or. Okay, let me out. There we go. Alright, chat. What biome should we look for? Where would you all like to start this time? Or we can go back to the bottom of the ocean again. That was kind of fun. I'm just a little annoyed that the tree would not grow because it needs sunlight now and not just normal light. So lame. Jungles are cool. There's a lot of ones. Yeah. Fair enough, Pixel. You vote jungle? I mean, if we can find a way to get trees underground to grow regularly, or we can find any other way to make wood underground, then I would love to be underground. Chad, I figured it out. Do you know what we need to do? I need to find one of those nether forests, and that'll be our source of wood. Green. Are you just asking me colors in general? I make spruce treehouse. Spruce is nice. I do need some wood and food before I starve to death here. I have a feeling that the big compies is going to kill me pretty quickly. Oh, that doesn't really matter. Either one would work. As long as we get trees. Get yourself some delicious water. Hydrate yourself. Oh, that does sound pretty. Maybe the 2-1 then. I'm proud of your drinking water. I'm proud of you for drinking water. I am not a fox. I am a human. Do you see my human ears, Chad? Clearly, this is the face of a human. Alright, time for food. Come here, fishes. Come here, fishes. Stop running from me. Stop running from me. I'm going to drown. Wow. You want to touch my human ears? Very strange, but if that's what you're into. Yum. My ears are normal ears. Why would they be fluffy? Oh no, Echo. Arf, Arf, I'm such a good little puppy. A cute little puppy. Why did I make that redeem? It's a lie. It's obviously a lie, chat, but you know. Fine. Arf, Arf, I'm such a cute little puppy. You happy? It's okay, Goose. Everyone's brain's a little broken sometimes. Hi, Pomo. Pomo, were you not here earlier, or did I just imagine you? Maybe I think about you too much, Pomo. No. You swindled me, did you? I'll remember that. Is that a flying hunt? Oh, hey, look, a town. Okay. That's a flying igloo, chat. And the dog ears are baby. There are no dog ears. See, I just have hair and human ears. I didn't mean to do. Give me that back. They don't need to sleep. I'm taking this. I'm also taking your cool lantern. It's my cool lantern now. You don't need light. And I'm taking your door. Am I a puppy girl with ear clips? No lights for you. These are mine now. First time I've been called a puppy girl. Shishomura. Inuyasha, I am your brother, and I'm evil. No, you don't annoy me. You can call me whatever you want. It wouldn't bother me. Just don't call me a slur. What do you mean? Good morning, Ollie. How you doing? That was nice. What are you eyeing about? I feel like I'm missing something. Give me your lanterns. Yes, your dog's a liar. Your dog is trying to fight you. They're trying to instigate a war. Don't believe the lies of the dogs. I would never commit theft, Chet. What are you talking about? Theft is bad. I would never steal. Not even once. Ooh, blue bed. I'm not a thief, Chet. You can't prove it. Hi, Aika. Lovely to see you. Aika, do you watch Leia a lot? Because I see you always using their emotes. Exactly. If the cops aren't called, is it really theft? Sausage roll thrice. I'll have one sausage roll thrice, please. Really? No, they don't have anything. I steal all the beds so they can never sleep. I just rolled persuasion. Oh, but don't you know this would look so better in my hands? You got called out with a Slavic meme. Oh, good morning, Sav. How you doing? And thank you for the follow on Golden Frieza. Really appreciate it. Just, I just need your stuff. You don't need your stuff. Why would you need your stuff? Can I have your stuff instead? Oh, thank you. Morning, Zev. I do. Stretch. This is mine too. You get nothing. It's a random chance. There is a 2% chance that you win, and if you win, you get gifted a free sub. And Gene makes brain go brrr. Chetty's almost dead. Chetty's almost dead. I kind of have to put him out of his misery, don't I? I should kill the golem, right? Like... By the way, chat, I've decided I'm stealing all their jobs. I'm taking your job, sorry. I need it more than you do. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Your dogs are liars. Don't listen to them. Also tell them woof 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 bark woof bark 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 woof 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 bark bark. That was kind of messed up, honestly. It took him too long to die. No, Vanya, I lost the underwater world. Chat sabotaged me. Chat was like, oh, Gene, wouldn't it be so funny if you accidentally attacked a piglin? And I did, and then I died. You can't have my job, I'm sorry. Chat was all like, I hate you, and I think you smell bad, and I hope you lose everything. I did not forget that I had a sword, totally. That's crazy. Let's see if we can find a jungle now. No, I'm so proud of you. Good job. Good job. You keep eating that food. Or did I lie? Pomo, Vanya. Pomo and Vanya sitting in a tree. Kissing. You kind of slept through breakfast? Kilmtro. It's the new ship, chat. I'm sorry. What a unique hole. I don't know what I'd do if somebody said that to me. Yes, what a unique hole you have. Oh, okay, well. Secret side story. It's gonna be an offshoot plot. This is my hole that was made for me. Wow. So Clips, are you saying I don't? I don't? So rude. You don't know. I might. You're my favorite streamer. You are beautiful and you make me smile. Thank you. So rude, so rude. Well, thank you. Not this again, chat. I just accepted it. Ew, carpet. I don't have carpet. I could use carpet. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me your carpet. There is a ceiling fan in the basement. You can live on the ceiling fan. I'll give you that one. I like carpet. I have a carpet, chat. I found a carpet. Did I ever tell you all about my found carpet story? It's not much of a story. I'll just say that half of the furniture I have right now is stuff that other people were getting rid of. Actually, no. So, when I was actually just like walking around, and then next to a dumpster, wrapped in plastic, was this nice Persian rug. And the rug said, good rug, just don't have space for it. Please take. And so I took it. And now I have a living room rug. I also got shelves. I have a bookshelf. I have drawers that are next to my door upside down because I've been too lazy to bring them in the rest of the way. I got the 3 drawers next to my bed. And, ooh, hello. I will take this. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this. Thank you. I will take this. I understand this is an altar of some sort, but this is mine now. I appreciate you. Please take my windows. They're awful. Exactly. Oh, you're too allergic for any carpet? What if they're like kept really, really nice and clean constantly? Oh, we're taking this. I don't know what this is. What is this? Can I repair here? Or do I have to disenchant for this to work? Okay, so it looks like I have to disenchant to make it work. Got it. Oh, hey, look, diamond. Hey, iron pickaxe. Oh, hell. I'll take that. Oh, I'm just stupid. I've played Minecraft before. I just never learn anything. Why doesn't Gene know how to do basic things? Because I'm a big, big dummy. Well, in that case, you don't need a table in here, chat. No table. Well, I don't want to spend money on a table, chat. Tables are expensive. Tables cost more than, like, for me to get the couch was $100. A table's like 200 to 300. Because, you know, they have the chairs and everything. Yeah, it's still like a $200 table. I don't want to spend $200 on a table. His voice at full volume does something. Yeah, IKEA tables are like 200. I don't have any siblings in the United States. My sister's in Japan, so it really won't work out for me. Pallets are free. I'm not getting a pallet. I don't want the chemical treated wood in my apartment. Really? Please. Chat. I know what I'm gonna do. I also have a small car. Facebook Marketplace would be perfect, but I'd need like a truck. And chat, I don't know how to tell you this. Yes, she did. She had to get a permit. She actually works at a cafe right now. And she can't do anything except work at that cafe because her permit only allows her to work the job that sponsors her. Rent trucks for Home Depot. Like, you know, that's, well, so the thing is, I would have to find a place giving away free furniture. Then I'd have to rent the truck, and then I'd have to move all the furniture myself. Because I'm sorry to tell you this, chat, but I have no friends. So, as much as I'd love to do that, the only reason why I buy my furniture online when I do buy it is because they'll ship it and carry it to my door. Okay, I have no friends outside of streaming or online. That's more accurate? Vanya, you know you're my friend. Yeah, unfortunately, being a large 6'4" sized man, people don't feel bad for me. They're just like, oh, yeah, he's got this. He's fine. He has this. Look at him. Look at that dude. Yeah, he'll be fine. Oh, they won't let me make crosswood. I'm too tall for pity, is what it is. I do like tabletop games. Chat, I'm fine. I'm fine. I appreciate you wanting to help me make friends. I can make my own friends, chat. If only at a table. Yeah, exactly. I forgot I had a crafting table already. Don't buy a table, buy a friend. That's called prostitution, and that's not legal. Mm-mm. Yes, Mama. Makes the lack of oxygen. What do you mean the lack of oxygen? Because I'm too high in the air. Yeah. I mean, I recently had a coworker be like, hey, if you need friends, like, you can hang out with me and my partner. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that'd be fun. So maybe I'll do that. We'll see, we'll see. But chat, you have to understand, I work 8 hours a day. I stream for 4 hours a day every single day. There really is not a lot of time for other people in my life right now. No, that's fair, that's fair. That is a good question. I thought they should kill faster, and that's why I originally tried to kill a golem with one. Exactly. So streaming is all I really need, chat. I got you all. I don't need IRL friends. I need streaming. See, here's the plan, chat. Here's the plan, chat. We get up to an average of 50 viewers, which is the goal right now. Once we get to an average of 50 viewers, then we start looking for sponsors. Once we have sponsors, we start selling products back to people. I make enough money through that to quit my job. I struggle a bit, money will be really tight, but I'll spend 8 hours a day streaming. That'll give me an extra 4 hours a day to actually do stuff, and so I'll have 7 hours a day to, work out and go meet people. But Gene, you shouldn't put off your life until you hit a certain goal. Well, you know what? Fight me. That's right, chat. We're making IRL goals. We need 50 average viewers before Gene's allowed to have friends. Five-year plan. Oh, no, I mean, this is like a 1 year plan. Thank you for the follow, Random Scandinavian. Lovely, lovely to meet you. How you doing? I don't hate any of you, chat. You know I love you. I love you so very, very much. I wouldn't stream if I didn't enjoy your all's company. There's evidence, there's lies. Thank you, Gopnik. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, the lies, the evidence that is lies. We still haven't found the jungle, by the way. Oh, no. Well, this is going badly. Why that man come out of the dark like that? Hey, Vanya. Vanya, do you want to make me a make-out emote? I will pay you to make me a make-out emote. That way chat can have one. I don't know. We should have something goofy. Let's not have a real person. Let's have something that we can do. Oh, you want headbats? Okay, I will figure out how to do a headbat redeem, chat. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, fine. Vanya, but you then need to draw the canonical Big Mac, senpai. Just make sure to have no McDonald's sides of it so I can call it Big Mac. Chat rules forbid sexism? Yeah, wait, what are we talking about? Who's being sexist? No, but there needs to be a canonical Big Mac design. Vanya's gonna have to make the canonical Big Mac. The humanoid Big Mac. Hi, Cyanosis. How you doing? Good morning. Thank you so much for the raid. We're talking about making out with Big Macs. Please give me a lovely little shout out for this sweet, sweet, lovely person. What were you doing this morning? Day one? Oh, you know what that means. You know what that means, right? Congratulations on your free samba. I'm so proud of you for winning. Oh. I hope you enjoy your sub and enjoy all the emotes that come with it. Speaking of, we're talking about making a making out emote because apparently chat needs more making out emotes. Mining away. Yes, Aika. What's up, Aika? But thank you so much for the raid. If you need a raid and run, feel free to do so. My name is Gene. I'm a gambler, a writer, and a flirt, and a soon-to-be a villain. I hope you all have a lovely time here. And if there's anything I can do, if there's anything I can do to make your stay more enjoyable, please let me know as I lose my voice. Golden, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. I'm not a cool person. ours off that, didn't I? Interesting. Funny hot dog, you like turtles? The SMR starts hitting. Exactly. Okay, we still need to find the jungle, Chad. I'm learning to sing. Make it a turtle, chat. We have to kiss a turtle. Turtles, turtles. Yes, Chad, it has to be the turtle. It's gonna be a turtle. Bonnie's a great turtle, Chad. Don't let them tell you different. Vonnie's the best turtle. No one else is a better turtle than Vanya. You're gonna call me Lulu? You're gonna call me Lulu? Really? Interesting. I don't think I've been called Lulu before. mm. Thank you for the kiss, Redeem. Always, always appreciate it. Because I like making kissing noises. I'll be honest, chat. Kissing noises is one of my favorites to do. That place looks so cool over there, but it's not a jungle. And we said we'd spawn in a jungle. Oh no, what did you send me? Should I be worried? Let's see what it was. I will watch it later. Cyanosis, though. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry I zone out sometimes. I get so stuck on a train of thought. I feel bad when people raid. And I'm like, no, my brain is over here. But I am very, very appreciative of your raids. You have such a lovely community, and I promise I'll take the best care of them I can. I'm kissing ASMR. I don't know if Twitch would be happy if I just spent a few hours kissing. They're in the basement. That's fair. It's very fair. No, good. I'm glad you enjoyed lurking. I can't believe we haven't found any jungle yet, chat. Let's go over to back to my normal music. Will you call 911 in case of intruders and watch my dog? Bet. Yeah, there's normally a jungle somewhere. But there's been no jungle. What if there is no jungle, chat? What if the jungle isn't real? Wait. What's this? You've never seen a jungle in my life? Like IRL? Or are we talking like in Minecraft? Whoa, what is that? Okay, but that island's kind of cool, chat. What's this? Oh, well, 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 well. This is terrifying. Hmm. Hmm. But actually, fake jungles with animals that are just cameras? So you say they make an entire jungle fake? Oh, Mosdorf. Adorable. I do think it's funny that you, at some point, said, like, I don't remember what you said anymore. You said you were going to do something, and you wake up here later. Okay, but this is so cool, though. Look at this. Look how cool this is. I'm glad they did that whole caves update. Because, I mean, what the heck? Thank you for the sub, cat. I really, really appreciate it. Oh. Come back, Barry. I mean, these little mossy caves are gorgeous. Hmm. Oh no. Calypsy, you don't need your plushies to make yourself look stupid. You can do it on your own. Believe in yourself. Be the dummy I know you can be. Oh. Ooh, thank you so much for the Wadim. How dare you make me say that? Faith, Faith, you're such a good girl. Such a good girl. Thank you so much for the Wadim. Mm. Okay, this place kind of cool though. What if we lived here? Actually, no. I said I'd find a jungle. We're gonna find a jungle. No, no, it doesn't. We gotta find a jungle, chat. It's okay. We'll find a jungle eventually. Where'd my boat go? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, Bomo, go do the stuff you need to do. Only a dummy would lose their boat. Calypsy, why'd you take my boat? I can't believe you'd do that to my boat. Take it and lose it for me. Alright, Ali, you got this. I believe in you. Enjoy your lovely, lovely day, alright? And you say hello to that little gal for me, won't you? Da-da. As requested. Jungle's a Minecraft conspiracy, chat. Jungle's a Minecraft conspiracy. It's true, it's true. Mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Alright, you be good, little one. You get along, little doggy. It's so nighttime. There we go. I do think it's funny that I found so many villages and gotten so much supplies. Oh, no way. What is this? Why does this look so cool? What is... Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God, chat. Oh, God, chat. We did it. Well, it might not have been my smartest idea, but... Oh, look at that. Oh, it's so cool. It's cool. Well, chat, unfortunately, it does look like I am gonna have to end stream. Because it looks like work is calling me. And I am on call. Which is very, very, very unfortunate. So, chat, lovelies. I had wanted to do a little bit of a longer stream, but apparently we're ending 5 minutes early. I'm so sorry about that, chat. Let's find somebody we can raid out to. I'll be back later today, I promise. Who do we have? Let's see how chill they are today. We might raid into them. Give me a second here, chat. Come on, advertisement, go away. Oh, I hate this. Every time when it's like, I want to go check out this streamer to see how they're doing. That way I can go right into them. It's like, here are 13 ads. They're pretty chill. Alright, chat, we're gonna go right into them. We're gonna be raiding into a Just Chatting stream. So you say hi for me, okay? I appreciate y'all so very, very much. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now. And here's the rail raid message. Alright, bye lovelies. Mwah. Mwah, 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 mwah.